first law of thermodynamics states that energy can never be created or destroyed. It only changes forms. I am proposing a fresh look into the problem of COVID-19 with a perspective that deeply examines our thinking about COVID-19. What I am trying to suggest is that we need to understand that viruses are an integral part of the evolutionary process ever since the inception of mankind or life on this earth. Mankind has come up much later, of course. In the evolutionary process, first were the microorganisms as they were created, whether they were single cell or more. And then out of the 6 kind of microorganisms, viruses are the minutest, except for prions who are even still minute, more minute than viruses in size. Basically what I am proposing is that viruses as a form of life are the most abundant in quantity as well as the kinds, the types and the number of types that are there in the earth, that they are there on earth. What I am saying is that viruses alone outnumber all other forms of life, both in terms of their number as well as their kinds. For example, human beings know about 200,000 kinds of viruses, out of which approximately 230 odd are there, which are causing diseases, and we are familiar with the genomic structure of those viruses. These 200,000 also have recently been discovered, and it is a scientific estimate that there are millions of kinds of viruses which we still do not know. Quantity wise, C is about more than 70% of the earth, and a liter of seawater, 1 liter of seawater can contain a quadrillion, which is about, if you put 30 zeros in front of 1, you will get a quadrillion, which is an enormous number of viruses. The human, the body, it contains about 77 trillion cells, of which we are made. The number of bacteria in a human body are 10 times more than the human cells. And the viruses are about 100 times still smaller on an average in size as compared to a bacteria. And the number of viruses in terms of their number as well as their ability to reproduce themselves as a life cycle is much faster in terms of time as compared to if a human being creates a new generation in 20 years, a virus can create a new generation in just a couple of minutes or even less than depending upon the kind of virus it is. Now what I am proposing is that thinking that virus is something which was suddenly born out of COVID-19 was suddenly born out of some lab, or it came as a animal transfer from some animal market in China, is not a right way of thinking. I understand that viruses are an integral part. They are everywhere. They are in water. They are on earth. They are in air. In one of the studies in America by one of the virologists, he has studied the air transfer and air travel of viruses from one part of the other to another. And he says that this travel occurs between about 7,000 to 10,000 feet, and viruses are traveling by billions and billions, and on an average when they fall on earth they could be as high as about 800 millions on 1 square meter of earth in a single day. So this is the quantity of viruses that we are dealing with. So thinking that some viruses were suddenly born, some virus which harms life was suddenly born in a lab in China, and then it got out and traveled all around the earth by human contact, is not a real and a genuine understanding which includes the truth as it is. Second, the human organism, or any organism for that matter, whether it is mammals or any organism, whether it is plant life, or they start fighting the disease the day it is born. It happens from the first moment, and this is a continuous immunological process in which life and death are in a perpetual struggle with each other. They are always trying to maintain a particular kind of balance which creates life. It's like saying that my human body temperature has to be in a particular range, whether it is 98.4 till say 104, 105, and not less than say 96, 95, because this is the range of life. This range of life is created by that continuous interaction. In that interaction, viruses are a part of it. We say that there some are friendly and some are bad. What I am saying is that in what is bad? Virus in itself is neither dead or alive. It will keep on sitting on a cell till the time that the host cell creates a particular kind of special environment for it to enter into that cell, then take over all the apparatus which creates energy, and then reproduce itself using those processes which the cell is generally using to recreate itself, and then finally destroy it. Even destruction is a part of living process in a specific way. For example, about 1 million cells are born in the human body afresh and simultaneously die every second in the human body. This is the kind of speed with which we are working all the time. Saying that some viruses, they come and they kill us indiscriminately is not the right perspective. The right perspective is that this is a dynamic and a very deep process which should be understood much more deeply, and the intricate interactions of various forces in this must be much more comprehensively and deeply understood. What I am suggesting is that, for example, let me give you a simple example. Suppose I sanitize all that I eat. Shall the human organism be able to survive? Shall it be able to live if it kills everything that is decaying it? If I do not allow the bacteria and viruses to work on what I am eating, the food will not be digested into the living energy that is creating me. That is creating all life energy, be it in the form of cells, be it in the form of skin, be it in the form of blood. All these processes, such a large number of processes, there are thousands, are intricately and deeply connected to the very process of decay. So saying the food that I eat is a very fresh and a simple food, but the moment it enters the alimentary canal, from the mouth onwards till the time it goes out, this kind of fermentation, this kind of decadence, this kind of process of change by way of viruses and bacteria is necessary. If it doesn't happen, life will not be able to survive. So sanitization, can we sanitize the environment of which we are a part? Can I sanitize myself by not breathing? Can I sanitize myself by not walking on this earth? And if I want to sanitize all the earth, I will start firstly sanitize one layer, then that layer, then the second layer, then the third layer and the fourth layer. And where will it end? It will end in finally into some space where there is no life at all. So what I am saying is that this is not a very rational perspective, in the sense that it's not a very deep perspective. Another thing that I want to say, that no lab on this earth, whether it is in China or anywhere else in the world, whether it is trying to make biological weapons or whatever, can create something which is not already a genetic potential of that microorganism, be it a virus, be it a bacteria or anything else. Suppose, I will give you a simple example. Suppose there is a plant. That plant has red flowers coming on it, and in a lab I create blue flowers out of it, out of the same plant. Now the blue flowers can come out of that plant only if there is a dormant, hidden genetic code which gives the blueness of that flower. If that genetic code is not there in that cell, is not hidden in that genetic code, it can never come out. And that doesn't only come out in a lab, it will also come out in normal circumstances of environment, and that is what is mutation. So a mutation is an evolutionary natural process which is happening regularly all the time without ceasing for a second. So we have to understand the entire episode of COVID-19 with a fresh look, a look which combines the in-depth knowledge of virologists with the medical knowledge of the doctors. We need to come together and put our heads together and avoid this oversimplification of life and thereby creating the demon of COVID-19. The demon, the terror of COVID-19 has been, I understand, created out of our inadequate understanding of the total life processes, which are a symbiotic whole and a permanent, dynamic, regular interaction of various forms of life all the time. If this interaction of various forms of life, out of which health and disease is created, if this is stopped, life will stop. This is my perspective. We can further add on to this in my next topic. What I am trying to do in this video is, I am trying to invite a debate at a deeper level of all the relevant experts on the subject who can think deeply, come out, the experts in immunology, the experts in genetics, the experts in virology, the medical experts, and the alternative medicine people. Because the alternatives, I believe, whether it is Ayurvedic, whether it is homeopathic, whether it is other systems, who have had the traditional wisdom of understanding the mechanism of disease and successfully neutralizing that disease through the use of the medicinal substances as already there in the nature in different forms, be it in the forms of herbs, be it in the forms of minerals, be it in the forms of extracts out of them. And even allopathic system of medicine largely is based on the pharmacopoeia, the medicinal substances which are already there in other much older traditional forms of medicine. So evidence definitely is needed, but the alternative systems of medicine, be it homeopathic, I as a homeopathic doctor can seriously and profoundly make a claim that if some of the classical homeopaths who have the right, understanding of the subject, are brought forward and given a chance to bring about an evidence-based, check of the working of the medicines, then they will be able to prove it. And I can say it with a confidence of about 43 years of my personal and objective experience of many other experts on the subject. Similarly, I would say about Ayurveda. Ayurveda also has the same potential. What we need to do is, we need to bring a proper evidence-based testing of these medicines, so as to prove to the world that here you have a COVID positive patient, we have tested it, now you give your medicine, of course to a patient who is willing to take it, and then you prove whether it has worked or not. And another thing I want to say is that if COVID virus was something so dangerous as it is being created, then would, without a medicine, as the world says that we don't have a medicine right now, would it be possible for them that more than 95% people are cured all by themselves? How is it possible if the virus itself was so seriously dangerous to human life? Would it be that more than about 60-70% people are asymptomatic? How is it that the same virus is creating very mild symptoms, then mild symptoms, then mildly severe, severe, and then critical? How is it? What is this differentiation based on? This, we say it is based on your immune system. Of course, that is what is being that is what needs to be understood. The focus should be the understanding of how our immune systems and how immunology works, because immunology is dependent, is a continuous regular process. Immunology is determined by everything I do from morning till evening, everything I eat, the way I breathe, the way my emotions go, the way I think, the way I move my body, the kind of medicines that I am taking. Everything that is being ingested, is being ingrained by the organism, is a part of the immunology, and it's a continuous process. That is what I am suggesting. So this kind of misplaced fear and is not the right way. And another thing which is important is that each individual has his own specific immune capacity, which is important. It is like, I do not agree with the concept of herd immunity in a way. I will explain how. Suppose there are 1,000 people who are thirsty, and I give water to 999 people. Will the last person who has not taken water be able to take care of his thirst because 999 have taken water? No. Similar is immunology. Immunology, or the immune system, though has general principles, but it is definitely individual specific. So we have to understand this. Homeopathy, for example, the interesting part of homeopathy is that homeopathy, suppose for coronavirus, homeopathy could have about maybe 100 medicines. That medicine will work. If there are 10 COVID patients, they can have different modalities and clinical symptoms. One patient could be more thirsty, one patient could be more chilly, one patient could be more dull mentally and physically, one patient could have more nausea, one could have pneumonitis of the left lung, another could have pneumonitis of the right lung. Even the area of the pneumonitis determines the homeopathic medicine. So those modalities are individual specific in homeopathy, and the same in many ways is in Ayurveda, which is based on those three dosh principle. And homeopathy is based on the miasmatic three principle. There are three miasms in homeopathy. What I am trying to say is that if you ask me personally, I personally have cured 3, and the 4th is under cure, 3 cases of COVID positive with homeopathy alone, and in a very quick way. Homeopathic is not slow. Right Ayurvedic medicine is not slow, not at all. If it is right, it will take care. And another question I am asking, what is new about any of the symptoms of COVID-19? Is sore throat new? Is temperature new? Is body ache new? Is losing your smell and taste new? Is the lung fibrosis new? Is a multi-organ failure new? And disease is a very complex process. Why is it said that the older people or the people with chronic diseases are more vulnerable? Because disease is a far more complex process. And there is a great mix of acute and chronic disease in the human organisms, which need to be understood much more deeply in order to find us new solutions. The world, this is not the time for world to shut down. This is the time for world to interact deeply, think deeply, and concentrate on the deeper principles of health, disease, immunology, and the solutions. And vaccine, another, has a very serious limitation. Vaccine is not creating the immunological response, it is only provoking it. The immunological response is still created by the organism in a natural way. That is the creative intelligence of life. We must understand that creative intelligence of life in a much deeper way than is being presently understood. That is the case I am trying to make. Why does a virus mutate? Why is a vaccine basically limited? Because the virus has the capacity to mutate. And you create a vaccine and it will outrun it, it will outsmart it. In how many days or in how many months or in years is a matter of time. We have been struggling for the last more than 30 years for a successful vaccine for HIV/AIDS, but we have not yet still been able to make. We have been able to control it in some way, but in a limited way. So let us not overestimate the significance or the importance of a vaccine. If vaccines were so successful, the flu vaccine is already existing for the last so many years, and Americans take it most frequently, and still more than about 1 lakh people in America alone die out of flu every year. It's a matter of statistics. So let us not overestimate the efficacy and the effectiveness of vaccines. Let us have a look of much deeper systems who have got effective solutions, but who have not yet found the confidence of people, because they have not been given the right kind of energy by the people, the right kind of input by the people who matter, so who can make it an evidence-based utility for the mankind.